Hello everyone! Today we're going to be making a beaver puppet. And while we make this beaver puppet, we're going to learn all about the history of beavers and how they survive. Sound good? Alright, let's get started! For this craft, you'll need markers, a glue stick, scissors, construction paper, plain printer paper, and a brown paper bag. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my paper and I'm going to fold it right in half. Now I'm going to take my marker and I'm going to start making my arms, my legs, and the ears of my beaver. And we folded the paper in half because beavers are symmetrical, which means that they're equal on both sides. So we need 2 arms, 2 legs, and 2 ears. For my beaver's arms, I'm just going to make 2 lines straight up like this. And then I'm going to do just kind of a half circle on the top. This is going to be like my beaver is holding something in his hand. Beavers' front arms actually have 5 fingers, and they use those fingers to pick up sticks and to pack down mud when they're building their lodges and their dams. I'm standing in Big River Management Area on a big old beaver dam. Beavers build dams to try to flood an area, so there'll be a really small stream, and the beavers will build up mud and sticks to block the flow of that stream, flooding an entire forest. And when they flood that forest, that means the trees are standing in water. And trees are good as a food source for beavers, and they also use the trees as a building supply. And that's what this dam is made out of. Sticks, wood, mud, the same thing that they use to build their lodges. There's also a beaver lodge right behind me, and that is a beaver's home. And again, it's made out of sticks and mud. Next, I'm going to draw the beaver's foot. Beavers actually have webbed feet. So I'm going to make a triangle like this. And at the end, I'm going to do a few different U's to show that my feet are webbed. Just like a duck's or a frog's. Those back feet allow the beaver to swim really well in the water. The last thing that I'm going to draw is my beaver's ears. Beavers have pretty small ears, but they have very good hearing. So for the ears, I'm just going to do a little circle, just like so. Now that we have the arms, the feet, and the ears all set, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut right in half. So I'm cutting on that folded edge. So now, for my arms, if I open them up, it looks like I have 2 arms, so I'm going to cut straight down the middle so that they're separated. Boop. Beavers are a keystone species, which means they create habitat that a lot of other animals depend on. If beavers were to disappear, we would also lose a lot of other wetland habitat, which means many of those wetland species wouldn't survive. So now that we have all of the other parts of the beaver, we're going to need to cut out the beaver's tail. So beavers have really big, broad, flat tails, and they use those tails to help them to swim. We're going to draw a big, flat, broad beaver tail. It's going to look like a really big, upside down U. Just like that. Now that we have all of the beaver's limbs, we're going to work on the beaver's head. So I'm going to take a bottle cap or something that is round, and I'm going to take my white computer paper. I'm going to put it right here. So we're going to make the beaver's eyes. I'm going to give my beaver really big eyes. I'm just going to trace around that bottle cap. Beavers can actually see underneath the water. Their eyes act like goggles. I'm just going to cut out those eyes. Beavers actually have pretty poor eyesight. They can't see very well, so they depend on their other senses, like their sense of smell and their sense of hearing, to detect predators.
Beavers are habitat engineers, which means they build the habitat exactly how they want it. They want trees standing in water. That makes their food source really easy to get and makes it really safe for them.
Next, we have to cut out a very important part, and that is our beaver's teeth. For the teeth, I'm just going to use the corner of my paper, and I'm going to just make a square. Just like that. And I can put a line right down the middle, and that's going to be my 2 front teeth. There we go. I'm not going to cut out that middle line because that's showing the separation of those big 2 front teeth. I have here a beaver's skull, and so you can see it has these front teeth, which are very long, and then it has these back teeth, which are a little bit shorter and flat. These front teeth actually never stop growing, and that's because beavers are actually rodents, and so they're cousins of things like mice and squirrels. And beavers are actually the largest rodents in North America. They use these teeth to eat things like leaves, sticks, and aquatic plants. So beavers are herbivores.
We have some beaver sign here, so you can see this end of the stick has been all chewed up by the beaver. Got a couple more over here. You can see those little teeth marks where the beaver has been gnawing away.
The last thing I need to cut out is just my beaver's nose. So I'm just going to draw a triangle using the edge of my paper. And I'm going to cut straight across that line. What's really cool about beavers is that when they dive underneath the water, their nose and their ears have this special valve that closes, allowing them to hold their breath underwater. Now that we have all of the pieces to our beaver, we're going to start to assemble our beaver. I have a pretty small paper bag here. You can use a bigger one if you want to. You'll just have to make your limbs bigger. My sized bag would probably be about the size of a baby beaver, called a kit. But you can have a bigger bag because beavers can grow up to 60 pounds. The largest beaver was actually 80 pounds. I'm going to take my glue stick and I'm going to go ahead and start gluing all of my pieces on. I'm actually going to flip open the bag a little bit, and I'm going to glue my teeth underneath so it looks like they're sticking out from the mouth of my beaver. I'm going to turn over the bag, and I'm going to glue the tail right on the back. I might glue it off at an angle, or you can glue it straight down. It's totally up to you. Okay, gonna put my cat back on my glue stick, and now it's time to decorate. These front teeth look orange colored, and that's because they actually have iron in their teeth, which helps keep them really strong when they're chewing on those branches and trees, trying to build their dams and their lodges. Now I don't have an orange marker, so I'm just going to color my beaver's teeth in yellow. You can color them in if you want to, or you can leave them white like you just went to the dentist. If you want to, you can add some fur to your beaver, because beavers are mammals, so they do have fur, even though they look very sleek and smooth when they're wet in the water.
When the European settlers first arrived, they saw tons of wild animals. They saw so much forest that they thought the supply was endless. And so they cut down forests and they hunted a lot of species until they were completely gone. Beavers were gone from Rhode Island for a very long time because they were trapped for their pelts or their fur. Those pelts were really valuable and they were actually used as currency or money. And so they would ship them back over to Europe and they would use those pelts to create things like top hats and coats. We still allow trapping today because pelts are still used for clothing, and it's also really important to help keep the balance. Beavers are very important for creating wetland habitats, but if their dams break or if there are too many beavers in an area, it can cause a lot of problems for landowners. It can flood things like houses and roads.
I'm going to turn my beaver over, and I'm going to give him a little pattern on his tail. Beavers actually store fat in their tails, and that helps them to survive the winter. Another thing that they do is they'll actually store food right outside their lodge in what's called a cache. That way they can reach their food supply even when the surface of the water is frozen. And there we have it. Our beaver puppet's all done. If you want to, you can cut out a little stick and put a stick in his arm so you can grab one from outside and glue it right on. There we go. Beaver's all ready.